Alright, today we're going to tie a Rainbow Czech Nymph. We're going to tie it on any scud hook. Right now I'm using Dairiki 135, but whatever your preference for scud hooks is will work. We got an 1/8 inch gold tungsten bead on it, and we're going to use black 8/0 uni thread. We're just going to start out, we're going to start the thread up behind the bead. Then we're going to tie in some small black wire for a rib. Again, start up by the bead. Then we're going to wrap down into the bend of the hook. We're going to move our thread up just a little bit. You don't have to, it's not real critical where you move your thread up to, because we're going to bury all this with dubbing, so you can be a little sloppy on this fly. Now we're going to tie in our shell back. For the shell back on this fly, I'm using 1/8 inch clear scud back. We're going to take one loose wrap to kind of capture that and bind it down with a couple wraps. And same thing, we're just going to move that thread back down the shank to where we tied in, or we stopped tying in that black thread or black wire. Alright, this fly only uses 2 different types of dubbing. The first part of the dubbing is we're going to use that Wapsi sow scud rainbow dubbing. And this body is slightly tapered, so we're going to start dubbing. We're going to use a relatively thin strand of dubbing to begin with. And then just going to build up that body. And if you want, you can kind of hold that wire and that scud back just a little bit, so your wraps of thread don't roll that over to the other side of the hook. Need just a little bit more. Alright, so we're going to wrap the first part of the rainbow dubbing up to about where it's about even with the hook point. Then we're going to tie in essentially a hot spot. We're going to use that same Wapsi Scout Scud dubbing, but we're going to use the color Bighorn Pink. And you can be pretty liberal with this dubbing. And you want the hot spot to be slightly shaggy, so we're not going to dub that real tight. We're just going to wrap a quick little hot spot. Now we're going to pull our scud back over, tie it down, trying to keep that scud back right on top of that fly. Take a couple wraps, anchor that down, cut our scud back. Now we're going to wrap our black wire up. We don't want real tight wraps. I usually do 3 or 4 wraps, trying to keep them pretty even. We're going to wrap it to in front of our hot spot and then tie that off. Alright, so now we just got to fill in that gap. We're going to use a collar of that same rainbow dubbing you used on the first part of the body, and we want this to be pretty shaggy. We almost kind of want to, it's like almost a throat of dubbing coming off on that front part. Kind of like a Czech Nymph style. So pretty buggy. Just going to fill in that gap. Just a little bit more dubbing. Now we're going to whip finish the fly. We're pretty much done tying. We just have to do a little cleaning up. I'm just using a double 5-turn whip finish. Break that thread off. We're going to make that thorax real buggy. To do that, we're just going to use a little bit of Velcro. We're just going to kind of pull some of that material from the front part of that fly down. Now again, you can fish it just like that, but I like it a little tighter, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim some of those real long ends about even with the hook point. And there you go, one completed size 12 Rainbow Czech Nymph. This pattern is also very effective in a 14 and a 16 also.